I first of all bow down to the greatness and divine that lies within all of you. Everybody loves stories. We are told that the universe is not made up of atoms. Physicists had it wrong. It is actually made up of stories. Everybody has a story. You have a story. I have a story. As a matter of fact, everybody has three stories. They have a story of their own. They have a story around them, surrounding, could be a school, profession, church, mosque, temple, synagogue. And then there's a third story which is very important, which connects their story with their surrounding. And in the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to find out why stories have such a wide universal appeal. Everybody just loves stories. Have you met anybody who does not? Probably not. Back in the days when we used to have kings, a stranger walks in a king's court and goes all the way up to the throne, the high throne, and sits on it, to everybody's amazement. He's bombarded with questions. Who are you? Are you a king from a neighboring state? He says, no, higher than that. I mean, he looked like a hermit. Are you a saint? He said, no, higher than that. Are you a prophet? No, higher than that. Are you God? He says, no, higher than that. Well, nothing is higher than God. He says, I am nothing. That is the beauty of stories. When I was 5 years old, I just fell in love with stories. I thought that there is something very special, very gripping about stories. I was inspired by a comment by Ludwig Wittgenstein, who said that he can teach a class in philosophy by telling jokes. I thought that I can teach a class in leadership by telling stories at least. And I started collecting stories. And very soon I found myself to be addicted, in a good way, of course, to stories. One day I was talking about different kind of surviving skills. A student walked up to me. He said, Professor Dhiman, why do you tell so many stories? And I said, let me tell you a story. Now, I also discovered that one has to improvise because stories get old. Here is an example. All of you must have heard a story, and we were talking about business ethics that day, about a woodcutter and his axe. He was cutting wood. Accidentally, his axe fell into the river. He prayed and prayed. God appeared. He said, what can I do for you? He said, my Lord, my axe fell into the river. Can you please help? He said, no problem. That's what I'm all for. So he goes in the river, God, and brings out a rather fancy axe made out of platinum. He said, is this your axe? He said, no. God goes back in. Remember, business ethics. Goes back. And this time, he brings even a fancier axe made out of gold and some kind of diamond sort of handle. He said, is this your axe? He said, no. Goes back in, and this time he brings up the real one, and he says, thank you very much, this is my axe. God was surprised. He said, I'm so impressed. You are the only honest person in this Darwinian world. And as a reward, you can take all these three home. Honesty is still the best policy. Now, here is the story. This is the traditional part, and here is the improvisation. You know, you have to improvise on stories. Now, the same person, same woodcutter, one day was taking a walk with his wife alongside of the river. This time, his wife falls into this river, and he still does not know how to swim. So he prays, and God appears. He says, now what? He said, God, my wife fell into the river. Can you help? He said, no problem. God goes in and brings out Marilyn Monroe when she was 21 years old. He says, is this your wife? He said, yes. God says, I am so disappointed in you. I mean, you know, you were so honest person when you were poor. But now look at you. He said, no, God, please do not judge me. First, hear my story. So he also has a story. Story within a story. Everybody has a story. He said, if I had said no to Marilyn Monroe, you would have gone in and probably brought out Elizabeth Taylor when she was young. And I would say no to her also. And then you brought my wife. And you wouldn't say, I'm very happy. You can take all 3 home. I am a poor person. I can hardly afford one. So that's why I said yes to the first one. Now, the beauty of the stories is that it gets better with time, with age. And I started making clusters. Here's a cluster of humility. Very interesting thing. Frank Lloyd Wright, one of the greatest architects on the planet, once was testifying in a court for his friend. And he goes up to the court, the place where you take oath. He says, my name is Frank Lloyd Wright, and I'm the greatest living architect on the planet. Everybody was quiet, looking towards each other, what was going on. And after the trial was over, his friend said, don't you think that was a little too much? He says, no, I was under oath to tell the truth. Now, it gets a little better when you go a little further. You know, there was this religious guy, you know, you can call it a rabbi or a priest or a guru or whatever. He was on his deathbed, and he was almost there sort of thing. And his students were praising him. He said, you know, our teacher was so nice, he was so kind, he was so with it, always helping, and he was rather relishing this talk, like all of us do. And when everybody was mentioning all kinds of qualities, he opens his eyes, he says, guys, don't forget to mention my humility. And then after that, he dies. There you have it. Benjamin Franklin, autobiography, one of the legendary one. In that autobiography, he says that he spent many, many weeks on mastering certain qualities, virtues, qualities of head and heart, like truthfulness and honesty. And one of them was humility. And by the time he got to humility, he said that was the most difficult quality to master, because by the time you get to master it, you become proud of it. There it goes out. Martin Buber, one of the greatest Jewish philosophers of last century, once was checking out from a hotel, and by mistake he wrote 1 extra 0 on the check. The person on the counter, of course, knew Martin Buber, who did not, and she said, absent-minded professor. Martin Buber said, no, not absent-minded, present elsewhere. So this is how professors get away with some interesting stuff. Now, I also discovered that stories have not one, multiple models. Not one, multiple models. But there's one model also to some stories. We will get to the 3 model stories also. Now, there were 2 people living in a mental hospital, and they discovered that now we are okay. We can leave the facility. So they talked to the warden. They said, sir, we have done it. We have done all your rules. Now we think we are self-reliant. We can leave and function well in the world. He said, no problem. We have a simple test. You come tomorrow morning. I will give you a test. You pass. You go. So there were 2 people. So same test to 2 people, Mr. A, Mr. B. In the morning they come. He takes them out. There was a swimming pool. It was empty. He said, what do you see? To Mr. 1, Mr. A. He said, well, I see an empty swimming pool. And the warden said, jump. Now this man thinks, if I don't follow the directions, he's not going to let me go. So he jumps and breaks his knees. He says, you are not ready, you are staying. The second person comes, and same test, he says, what do you see? He said, I see empty swimming pool, and he says, jump. He looks at the swimming pool and looks at himself, looks at the warden. He hesitated, and he does not jump. He did not jump. So he said, you pass, follow me to my office, we're going to do some paperwork, and then we'll let you go. So as the warden is doing the paperwork, he asked him, by the way, if I may, why did you not jump? He said, because I don't know how to swim. You are not going, you are staying. Because, see, we end up doing the right thing for the wrong reason. Now, I promise that I will share with you some stories which have 3 models rather than 1. Here is one. Russian story. Let's go to Russia. It's 18th century, very cold, winter, harsh. And one birdie, just born, is almost dying because it's cold, shivering to death. He prays, send me some warm stuff. And prayer is heard. And some cattle were passing by, and one cow, does the poo on the dog, on the little birdie. And the birdie feels very messy, but at the same time feels kind of warm. It is factory fresh. So, and kind of shakes the stuff and then gets revived and starts singing. Starts singing, there's a wolf around, comes, takes the birdie out of the mess and eats it alive. There are 3 morals to the story. Number 1, the person who gets you in the mess is not necessarily your friend or your enemy. In this case, the person who gets you out of the mess is not necessarily your friend. And the third and the most important, when it is warm and cozy, don't sing too loud. There was a king in India. Let's go to India now. It's very close to Russia. So this king had a wise counselor. Always used to listen to the wise counselor. But the counselor had a problem. Every time something happened, he will say, whatever happens, happens for good. Now, somebody died in the family of king, and this person was standing next to the king. He says, whatever happened, happens for good. Could have used some sympathy or empathy, as we saw in the video. And then something else happened. One day, the king, liked to go hunting, so they used to go together. One day, there was a new sword which delivered to the king. So the king was testing the sharpness and accidentally hurt his thumb. And this guy standing next to him, he says, whatever happens, happens for good. Now, king said, I've had it. I fire you. You're no longer working with me. And I not only fire you, you can't work in my kingdom. He says, thank you very much. Whatever happens, happens for good. So after that, the person leaves, and the king goes to hunting next day, and he's caught. He's kind of got lost, and he's alone. He's caught by some dacoits, and they are tribal people, and they want to, that day, sacrifice, human sacrifice. And they say, wow, this guy. He said, no, I'm king. He said, we don't know. You are very good, but we are going to do that. So they prepare him, and the rule is that when somebody is going to offer something like that, the body parts have to be complete. But when they check, his thumb was missing. So say, we can't give you, we can't offer you a sacrifice. So he's saved, he comes back, he thanks the Lord. He says, let's call that person because he was right. Whatever happens, happens for good. So he calls, people say, you're not going to come back. He said, no problem, I'm going to give him salary for 3 months, when he was off. So he comes back, and he says that, he tells the story, that this is what happened. I'm really thankful to you that you told me that everything happens for good. But it is good for me because I'm saved, I'm alive. But how was it good? You lost the job. He said, sir, it was good for me on 3 counts. Number 1, I didn't have to work for 3 months. You paid my vacation. Number 2, if I were with you that day, I would have been sacrificed because I am complete body, full body. And number 3, and the most important, that you now understand whatever happens, happens for good. An interesting story about a student who graduated from high school, and his father was rather very rich and was expecting that, my father will give me a Porsche. He loved Porsche, a convertible red Porsche, and he was expecting that his father is going to give him red convertible Porsche graduation gift from high school. And when he comes back, he sees that that was not the case. He was given a Bible, and rather very special Bible, gold-plated and all that. But this boy could not understand the beauty of it. He became upset. He leaves the house, never to come back. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years pass. Eventually, his father passes away. He gets a phone call from the attorney. Says, can you come to settle some paperwork, to sign some paperwork? You are the only son. He comes back. He's now a little bit mature. He's nostalgic. And he goes to his room, and he sees the same Bible. He now opens it. Something falls on the floor. He bends over to pick it up. Those were the keys for the Porsche, which he did not take. We are all gifted. The key is, have you opened your gift? And I hope you do. I also remember that one time God used to live in Valencia. And people will break his windows, at night, something is not working out, please help us with that. So he calls the attorney. He says, what should I do? And he says, you are living in a very vibrant community. Why don't you move to some remote countryside? He went there. Over there also, after some months, people found him and started bothering him. And then, he said, no, it's not working. So he calls a wise person. He says, what should I do? And the wise person says, why don't you hide yourself in everybody's heart? And after that, nobody bothered God. And we have not discovered that yet. I invite you to that discovery. Thank you very much.